Hello and welcome to ReginaldESQ. I'm Underhook, and the next in our series looking at the changes in the Armour in patch 9.9. Right now we're looking at the Tier 8 American Premium Heavy Tank, the M6A2E1. So I think it's had a major buff, with the exception maybe of the cupola. We'll have a look at that a bit more. So on the right of our screen is the 9.8 version of the tank, and on the left is the 9.9 version. I'll start playing the replay of the 9.8 version, and so straight away we can see the front of the tank. The armor is basically the same here. The hull is 101 millimeters, no change there, except that the area which was a driver's port has been smoothed out, so there's no angle changes there at all. So they've just simplified that a little bit, if you like. So moving right along now, and what I'm going to try and do is stop the recording when I get to the turret ring, because the turret ring has had a buff. So the turret ring was 89 millimeters, which is a definite weakness on the tank. Now though, the turret ring, as we can see here, is 191 millimeters. So it's gone from 89 to 191. Turret ring, definite buff. It's still a weakness compared to above and below the turret ring, so it still probably is a preferred place to shoot, but they're going to have a lot more trouble penning it now than they did before. Also, I've just noticed, I didn't see it before, there's a little bit of spaced armor right down the bottom here, which is 56 millimeters. Is there anything below it? Yeah, it's got armor below it, so there's I don't know why it's got that little bit of spaced armor there at the bottom, but I guess if you're coming over a hill, that's going to give you a little bit of extra protection. That's an addition which I didn't know about. Just noticed it then. Alright, so I'll continue the replay over here. And we're getting onto the front armour of the turret. And you can see it's a lot more complex now. There's a lot more variations. Well, the front was 191. That armour there is now 229. So that is a big increase. That's 28 millimeters thicker on the front section there. Now, that section extends behind the mantlet a fair way. So, yeah, so for example here, well, I'll continue the replay because it'll become apparent in a second. I'll let it go through that bit, but basically, there, okay. Now, here what you can see is it's 191, that pink mantlet. The pink mantlet is now 229 as well. So the mantlet, the pink area has also been buffed from 191 to 229. Now, in areas where it overlaps, like here, it's 229 over 229, whereas before it was 191 over 191. So it makes the mantlet, I think, quite a bit stronger. So I think that's definitely a buff to the tank. Now, also, I'll just stop this other one a little bit. So you can see here the side armor is 89 on the side of the turret, but here we have even the weakest part that's viewable from the front is 105 millimeters. So that's definitely been buffed, and it graduates down from there. So this part here is 152. This strip here is 180, and then of course we get to the central part, which is the 229 part. So I think that's definitely a buff, and along with the turret ring, you see the turret ring here that it extends in the front but not to the rear. To the rear it's 44 mils. So they've just strengthened up the front of the turret ring there, put a collar on it, which looks to be a real buff. So moving along, and the side armor on the tank is identical to what it was before pretty much. This still provides 25 spaced armor and 44 underneath, and the tracks still provide 20 armor. Side of the turret is the same as well, except of course you've got these other bits further back. Now actually I might just also get this to move back a little bit, stop it. This raised section which we see here is also 44, which can be hit from the sides. It's this bit here. That's also a buff, believe it or not, because on this tank here it's not 44. It's the same as the top armor, which is 25. So on the replay, which I didn't stop on this area, that's why I'm explaining it, that there would be 25 mils and an easier pen. Now they've buffed that and it's 44, same as the rest of the side of the tank. Not that many people are going to have trouble penning that anyway. We can see here this side ring, the turret ring, is 44 here, and then at the back it's 41, which isn't a huge difference. But anyway, moving along. So the rear of the tank, the armor here on the rear is the same at 41 millimeters. The back part of the turret here is the same, of course, 89, and the back here is the same at 208, I think it was. So then looking at the roof of the tank, I'll just come back a little bit. So the top deck and the top of the tank are 25 millimeters, which is the same as before. The difference comes about in the center of the cupola now. Instead of having whatever it was, 41 or something on the top, it's now the same as the rest of the cupola, which is 89 millimeters. So I guess that's a buff, but I don't really know how many people are going to shoot down your cupola when they've got the whole 25 millimeters on the roof. So I don't think that's going to make any difference. You will notice though that the cupola seems to have changed shape a little bit. I'll try and get a similar angle that I'm viewing in the other one. I think the center of the cupola appears to be larger, even though the outside appears to be similar size, although it has more gradients than it did before. It was a simpler design before. I think because the top is smaller, the cupola is probably sloping less. And so even though it's the same armor value, it's probably easier to pen now. So it's coming up as only 116 from that angle there. If I get this, say, pretty much front on, if you're a similar height to this tank, actually, if similar height to this tank, your gun would be about the same height, wouldn't it? So, okay, let's shoot from there, and it's coming up to 109. Unfortunately, I forgot to check the cupola on the recording, but I would say it would probably have been more than that. So, overall, a buff to the whole tank, but I would say that is the change of the angle on the cupola will be a minor nerf, and that is your weakness on the tank. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more reviews without my kids making noise in the background, please subscribe to ReginaldESQ. Have fun.